Hello and welcome to this edition of the Florida Writer Podcast. Today I have Heather Momyer. I'm saying that wrong.
Momyer.
Momyer?
Yes, it used to have an extra E in it, and somebody said, "Oh, we don't need that other E." But it's like Momyer.
All right. So, Heather, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. And you?
I am doing well as well.
Good.
Now, I'd like you to spend the next 60 seconds or so telling us about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Okay, so my name is Heather Momyer, and I run a very small publishing company called Arc Pear Press. And we publish what I call mini books. They are novellas, any length of book between, say, 15,000 and 30,000 words. Novellas, perhaps you could call them long chapbooks as well. I noticed a little bit of a gap in publishing. There are all kinds of short chapbooks for poetry, and not that many avenues for prose writers who have short collections of works. The poetry chapbooks tend to be too short, and sometimes you just have a story that's not a novel, or you have a small collection that fits by itself, but it's not full length. So that's what we do.
And you call them chapbooks, like chapter books.
You know, I never thought about where the word chapbook comes from. So chapbooks are mostly associated with poetry, but our books they're all prose, and they are all 60 to 120 pages. So a poetry chapbook might even be 20 pages or 30 pages. So ours are a little bit longer than those. And they're perfect bound as well. They're not stapled together or anything.
So that makes an impressive print.
Yes, I think so. So we have 5.
They're pretty skinny though. Is that?
They are. Yes, I know it's just audio, but they're all right now 5 1/4 inches wide by 8 inches tall, and I don't know, a very small spine.
A very small spine.
Yeah.
Well, but I love the idea of being able to have your shorter works published. I know most publishers if you have 50,000 words, that's barely enough.
And I don't know why novellas don't sell as well in the United States as they do in other places, but for some reason we don't have a very big market for that kind of work. And I'm wondering if that's partially because the major presses don't push for it.
Would you consider Old Man in the Sea to be a novella?
I would, yes. I don't think it's very long. It's been a while since I read it.
Right. I was trying to think about the length of books in general and what did sell. And you're right. I don't see many short works of fiction on the shelves.
I guess I think of a lot of people I hear who say, I like to read, but I don't have time. And so I think short books and short stories are probably really good for a lot of people.
I agree with you there. And I personally like to write short.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very concise with my style of writing. And so having to drag something out longer and longer and longer is a little bit painful for me. I'm going to have to look into your press and see what type of services you offer.
Well, we've published 5 books so far. We started last year. We have 3 story collections, 1 essay collection, and we did publish 1 collection of prose poetry.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
When you publish these books, what genres are you looking for? Are they all similar genres?
No, they're quite of a range. Right now, everything, I guess we would call everything literary fiction. And as publishers, we're open to other genres and even to something like literary journalism, but our sense of aesthetic definitely leans towards poetic language.
Poetic language, which would also fit that literary genre.
Sure. So I think that if there was another type of genre fiction, if the writer had used more literary language, more, metaphor and lyricism and things like that would be interesting to us.
How are people finding your press?
So, well, things like this. Right now, our 5 writers are probably our main ambassadors. So as they go and give readings, I'm sending books out to book reviewers to have reviews published. I'm trying to get more involved in literary festivals, particularly with the summer set coming up. I live in Tacoma, Washington, and I think there are maybe 4 or 5 book fairs in the area this summer that I hope to be involved with. So those kinds of things, making an appearance at AWP, but basically just trying to be out and about and organize a few events and have the writers remind people that they have books out there too. And also I've been posting calls for submissions all over the internet. We are taking submissions right now until May 1st. May 1st is our deadline.
Just FYI, this podcast will probably be presented after that deadline. You do this annually?
We do. Yeah. And I've been thinking about making open submissions, but I haven't done that yet, mostly because I'm not sure how to organize that, but I have considered just year-round running submissions. But right now we've been reading February 1st through May 1st. And then making decisions for the next year's publications.
So maybe next February would be a good time to look into submitting something.
Absolutely.
I will put that in my calendar. Thank you. So how did you come up with the name Arc Pear Press?
Oh, I knew that question was going to come up. I was looking for something that would distinguish the press from the publishers of smaller poetry collections. So I was looking for something that was related to prose and syntax. And let me preface this by saying I'm not a linguist at all, but arc pair is a grammar theory. And it's one of the primary oppositional theories to Noam Chomsky's theory of grammar. And I would not want to get into a discussion on either one of those theories, but I like we kind of like the idea of having a theory of grammar be the, naming of the press after that. And Noam Chomsky is such a big name too. It's nice to think about who has the opposing theory every now and then.
Do you offer full publishing services?
What do you mean by that?
Marketing and, well, I guess I was considering marketing. It would be the main thing. So you help with editing along with the whole gamut of a
Sure. The marketing and publicity is small right now because I'm the one who does all of it. And so that becomes a collaborative thing with the writers oftentimes. And I'm trying to figure out how to, as a single person working on that element, do more of that. So, I mean, it's definitely a small press. And the other thing that I'm running into with marketing the books is because they're not full length, the marketing avenues are a little more narrow. Sometimes it's difficult to find people who will write a review of a smaller book because it's not considered full length. So, there are book blogs that only take full length books. And we're in this weird in-between space because there are also chapbooks publishers who do fiction, but we're not quite that either because it's a little bit longer. So I am working on that. And that becomes something that I talk with each individual writer with about how we can best market and publicize the book.
Do you have a favorite platform for social media wise?
I personally have not been involved in social media outside of Facebook. That was the one I got I was on a couple years ago and started. So for the first time, I'm using Twitter, and we have an Instagram account, and I don't quite get Instagram yet, but I don't think I have a favorite yet. No. Yeah, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook. We even have a LinkedIn page because I like that because it actually gets a whole nother group of people.
It does get another group of people. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn is where I connect with my professional friends.
Sure.
And then Instagram, I'm learning Instagram. I'm a little bit like you. I started with Facebook. Twitter, I don't get it all. And Instagram, I'm starting to understand it, but it's definitely young person's platform, which I find interesting. So I have, for example, a 24-year-old, and I was asking him if I was doing something properly, and he told me to go check out some videos because I need to learn it by myself.
What I like about Instagram as someone who's selling something is that you can set up a shop, and I've done that. I don't know how to expand the reach yet, but the shop is run through Facebook, so you can sell books or whatever you have directly through it there. You post up your picture and you can tag it, and someone can see the price and see the little description about it too. So I think that's definitely something that could be useful, especially if you have some really nice photography skills and can create some nice pictures.
Creating the nice pictures is the biggest plus. I know there's a lot of free ones you can find out there, and I've been able to use those for my own newsletters and things, but I would love to take a photography class, be able to really learn the skill of photography. It does not clash with writing, in my opinion. I think
No.
it's an art, and arts are all interconnected.
No, yeah, and you just have to take the time to do it. And I know myself, all of my pictures are of my dog. So I don't know. I need to start thinking more diversely.
With a dog, you can get pictures of motion, you can get emotion, you can get when they're doing something naughty. You have all sorts of things to do with dog pictures.
It's true. Although I can't always connect it to a book.
Well, okay. That might be true. That might be. How did you first get into publishing?
Oh, that's I did my MFA in creative writing and fiction. I started in 1999 at Bowling Green State University, which publishes Mid-American Review. And that's when I started paying attention to literary journals. So I've been involved in literary journals from that point onward. At every school I've been a part of, and even some online journals that are not associated with any other institution. So I've been involved. That's a long time. It's a long time of working with writers on literary journals. And so that's where I became interested in editing and curating and putting something together.
What do you find most rewarding about your new venture?
The new venture with the books?
Yep.
Wow. Well, I do like, even with magazines, that moment when the box comes and you open the box and there's all the books in there, or the journals. I mean, that's still so exciting. The part I like personally is the part of working with the authors and, talking about things like, is this the right order for this collection? And then working with cover designers. I'm not a great designer, so I contract for the cover design work. So working with designers and then collaborating with the authors too, and figuring out the best cover designs, like all of those creative elements I like. The parts that's really new is the business side of things, like filing my taxes. I've never had to think about sales tax before in my life. That's the part I'm really looking forward to, that moment when I can expand and just hire an accountant and not thinking about how taxes work anymore.
Well, now that we're past the deadline, we can pause for a few months.
Yes. So that's definitely the sort of the difficult part for me. But I think publishing is creative. It's very creative. And I think it helps me think about my own writing too. And I've always said this, even with working with journals, there's limited space. And I think about, okay, if I submitted my writing to this press or this journal, where does it fit in the spectrum? And maybe it's good, but maybe it's not top 3 good, So I think I've learned a lot as a writer through publishing as well. So can I talk about the 5 books for a little bit?
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're very different. And I think that's important to know. Even while say we have 3 story collections, I'm kind of looking at them here as I talk. The one that our first book was done by the Florida-based writer, Patrick Creer. And his book he's a master of the narrative arc. And he starts right off with that conflict, but his stories are so absurd, and I would call them fabulous fiction. They just start out like, there's one story is about a car that goes to high school, and another story is about an airplane pilot that wants to fly off into outer space. They're kind of ridiculous, and they're very, very funny. But that's our only funny collection of stories, and it's the only absurdist, fabulous, kind of on the verge of magical realism. Then we have another story collection by a writer named Laura Krugoff that is much more serious fiction, and it's about women in the Midwest, but her writing in this particular collection is much more experimental. She has a story that's written all in questions, and two stories that are in second person, and they work really, really well to convey this sense of, there are a lot of stories about women trying to find their place in this world that's a little bit more confining, particularly with the stories about the older women who were born in the 1930s and were not encouraged to have jobs, encouraged to get married and have children and have more limited life experiences. And then the essay collection we have, Pleasing Tree, is by the woman who wrote that. Her name's Brooke Larson. I think she primarily sees herself as a poet. So she's got this really interesting sort of blend of very poetic language with very colloquial language. And she's talking about hiking through the desert with teenagers. And a lot of them are nature essays as well, too. And so I think there are funny moments in that one, too. And it's also very eloquent at times as well. So the style varies.
It's nice when you are able to do that and not pigeonhole yourself into a specific genre or a specific style.
Sure. Yeah, I would eventually like to publish literary journalism, and I think that's a little bit tougher to break into because journalists, I think, are more used to getting paid more upfront than literary writers. Yeah, I think it depends where you're working and what kind of magazines or publisher you have, and I think that can vary tremendously too, from the small local newspaper to being a regular contributor to, I don't know, Harper's.
All right, Heather, we are going to switch gears and move to our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Do you have your seatbelt on?
I'm ready.
If you were really hungry, would you eat a bug?
I've eaten bugs before, but I'm a vegetarian now. So I guess if I were starving hungry, yes. I've had crickets.
You've had crickets.
I've had crickets.
I know they have cricket flour, and that just seems really bizarre to me.
They weren't, they were just crunchy.
What's something you could eat for a week?
I like that we're talking about food. What could I eat for a week? Oh, just beans and rice and some vegetables. I know it sounds really boring, but I really like beans and rice.
Well, it's a staple in many, many households.
Yeah.
All right, and our final question, polka dots or stripes?
Stripes. Totally stripes. I think of Minnie Mouse when I think of polka dots.
True.
Were polka dots? I don't even know, but that's what I think of, Minnie Mouse.
She might have. I don't really know either. But well, Heather, this has been a lot of fun. I'm so glad you were able to stop by the Florida Writer Podcast.
Thank you so much, Allison.
Heather, how could people get in touch with you?
So our website is pair press. I think that gets confusing because our symbols, our little logos, the fruit pear, but it's spelled PAIR after the grammar theory. So www.arcpairpress.com. Also, I think I'm the only Heather Momyer in the world. So if you just Google me, you can find me. I'm pretty easy to find.
That is cool to be the only one.
I think. At least maybe I'm the only one on the internet ever.
There you go. Well, once again, thank you for stopping by the Florida Writer Podcast. This is Allison, your host. Allison out.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Heather Momyer is the founding publisher of Arc Pear Press and the editor-in-chief of Masque and Spectacle. Her fiction chapbook, How to Swim, was published by Another New Calligraphy, and her stories and essays appear in Tahoma Literary Review, Puerto del Sol, Psychopomp Magazine, Bennington Review, and other journals. She lives in Tacoma, Washington. You can find Heather on the web at www.arcpairpress.com. That's www.arcpairpress.com. For more information on the Florida Writers Association, you can find us on the web at floridawriters.net.